Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gannon, alongside my partner, Jack McNicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. If you've not had the chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com, and follow us on Instagram at justsayingNoGWJS for article and video updates. Week 3 continues. Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern.
Yep.
Again, got to start off with some blowout games we got in mind.
Yep.
And I say we just jump right into this one.
Let's go.
When the Las Vegas Raiders make their way to Tennessee to face the Titans, we got a 45.5 spread. 45.5 point over-under. My bad. That would be an insane spread. Holy crap. With only a 1 point spread towards the Raiders, what are your thoughts going into this one?
So the Raiders definitely have to be favored after the Tennessee last night, how they played against the Buffalo Bills. You know, that's why I'm rocking the Bills shirt. I mean, last night, unbelievable. But you got the Raiders going in here, trying to avoid 0-2, just like the Titans. Going on the road.
Well, the Raiders are 0-2. They're both 0-2. They're both trying to avoid
0-3. You're right. So now you're in 0-3. And you know what happens when you go 0-3? Your playoff percent chances go down. And these are two teams that made the playoffs last year. So, strange enough, with the 1 point spread with Las Vegas, we're seeing a blowout. And I got to admit, the Vegas Raiders did blow that game last week, but they showed a lot of potential that they can really start strong. And that's kind of been Tennessee's issue this year, especially with the Giants. They let the Giants get a couple of plays to start and put themselves in that position in the beginning. So, and then last week, they just start to finish got dominated. But, I'm interested to see what Josh McDaniels cooks up against this week.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. We just saw Stephon Diggs go off on the
Titans.
On the Titans. That was insane. 12 receptions, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Unbelievable.
Another player that got the hat trick this weekend. So I think what you got to pay attention to, obviously, is Devontae Adams, one of the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. He has been playing well, though. Last week, not his best game for him, just in general. Only going for 2 receptions for 12 yards and a touchdown. Those games happen, though. It's okay. So I think you got to get him back involved. Got to get it going. Don't pop bottles in the third quarter, I think is what Raiders fans learned this week.
Probably very expensive at Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah.
Have you seen those club seat prices?
I don't got champagne money.
No.
Do you got champagne money?
No, not when I'm betting on the Raiders in their home stadium in that week.
And they're losing. All right? But for me, this was a blowout game. I pushed Jack for this. The main reason why is just because I think Tennessee right now, you're kind of hitting the panic button. Ryan Tannehill looks really worried. There's nothing going on for this offense. 13 carries for 25 yards for Derrick Henry. What is that stat line? This is not the Derrick Henry.
I know Buffalo is good, but this is the king.
Yeah, they're very much so. I feel like they're known for their bend don't break offense that allows for the running to sort of flow in short passes, and then right down in the red zone they clamp down. It's kind of like their MO. So the fact that they got nothing started with Derrick Henry is worrisome to me. And when he's not getting going, they're not going to get going. And they just don't have a true wide receiver one at the moment. Ryan Taylor's not comfortable with a lot of his wide receivers. There's just too many question marks for me. Raiders, you just got to finish the game now, play the full 4 quarters. Everyone got a little bit too excited, and then everyone got too complacent, and that's why that loss happened. So play the full 4 quarters. You got Max Crosby, you got Chandler Jones, you got Devon Adams, you got the team that can do a lot of damage. The AFC right now, you got a lot of teams that are 1-1. This is a chance right now for you guys to get back on track, and I think this is the game to do it.
And the Raiders, they're a well-coached team. I think last week it just got away from them. Kyler Murray made some crazy plays. But like you said, the biggest thing for me is the Titans' lack of weapons on offense. The Raiders have no shortage of weapons. Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow had for the 2 fumbles last week that cost them that game. He's going to be looking for revenge. Devontae's definitely looking to go get 10 targets this week instead of those 2 that he got last week. And I'm gonna go right out the gate with the Raiders.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And we're just gonna move it right along with another AFC West team. When the Kansas City Chiefs make their way to Indianapolis to take on the Colts, 49.5 over under on this one with a 6.5 point spread, one of the second largest spread of the week. We've seen the Chiefs, whether it's offense or defense, find ways to win with a huge pick 6 against Justin Herbert. And obviously the week 1 performance of Mahomes of 5 touchdowns. What are your thoughts coming into this one with the Colts not putting up a single point in week 3 against the Jaguars?
It's disappointing. The Jaguars. You're disappointed to see that. When you're making Trevor Lawrence look great, it's just one of those things you didn't expect. We were very big on the Colts going in this offseason, but I've been saying it. You've been doing it for the last 3 years. You had, even 4 years. You had Jacoby Brissett. Then you have Phillip Rivers. Then you have Carson Wentz. You have Matt Ryan. You have these guys who are outside of their prime with the other teams, and you put them into a system that's not great for them, and you can evidently see that here. Now you got a guy on the other side, Kansas City. Pat Mahomes, he is the system in Kansas City. I mean, and last week, it's another example of no Tyreek Hill. Well, I'm going to go to Kelsey. Kelsey's not there. I have 5 other guys to go to. He was getting everybody involved. And, it's very upsetting to see that the Colts didn't do great last week. I was disappointed to see that Jonathan Taylor, who usually does great against Jacksonville, did underperformed. But no Michael Pittman last week. This is going to be tough for me. Blowout on the sense that second biggest spread of the weekend. It's true to that. I'm going to stick with that Kansas City because in Indianapolis it gets the job done totally.
Yeah, I got to go with Kansas City as well. I think for me, one of the biggest worries right now is just in the first 2 games for Matt Ryan with the Colts, 60% completion, 547 yards, 1-to-4 touchdown to interception ratio. They are just not getting the ball going.
Yeah.
With no Michael Pittman, this offense looks like it takes a drastic step back. There just is no rhythm.
No rhythm.
And I think that without Shaquille Leonard, it's been that much harder for them defensively to find some way to stay cohesive. And it sucks because, they got guys like DeForest Buckner and Stephon Gilmore and Yannick Ngakoue, and they just can't seem to...
When you lose your leader in the middle of the field, you see the impact of that.
Yeah, and it's happening right now, so I'm absolutely going with the Chiefs. That's why it's one of our blowout games of the week. We're going to move this right along into our MAC games of the week when the New Orleans Saints make their way to Carolina to face the Panthers. 40.5 over-under on this one. 3-point spread to New Orleans. What are your thoughts going to this one? Last week, Jameis Winston played with 4 back fractures. Did not look comfortable.
I got to say, I am avoiding this game at all costs this weekend in the sense that these two teams are in bad places right now. I mean, Matt Rule is clinging to his job seat, so you have to assume that at home, especially after the loss last week at New York, which we got to see, you get to literally notice that this offense, Baker Mayfield is doing what he can, but there's not much support with the scheme, and the defense is great, but I think that the defense really needs to step up this week. You saw that the Saints without Alvin Kamara are lost, and even though Michael Thomas can, still get it done, the Panthers, the Saints, they don't excite me this week. They're in bad spots kind of right now, and the Saints, they were undefeated against Brady in the regular season, and last week you could see that Jameis's back was hurting him a little bit, man.
Yeah, those three interceptions, it was like going back to the 30 for 30 Jameis Winston of the Buccaneers, where it just not pretty. And if you look on the flip side of the ball, we have been so excited for the Panthers offense with this great defense for so many years now, and no matter who it is, it just seems like it can't get going. And I think at this point you have to just start to look at the head coach and Matt Rule. It's been a carousel of quarterbacks coming in and out, and no one seems to get the ball going with all these great players. We watched them play last week. They really, really struggled up against the Giants defense that doesn't have a lot of star players, but got the pressure that was needed against Baker Mayfield to make him uncomfortable. Christian McCaffrey was kept pretty much in check that game. And I'm just looking at the Saints defense. The one thing they do have is they do have a really good defense. They kept the Buccaneers in check for a really, really long time before the interceptions really started to catch up to them, and they just weren't able to keep up. So for this one, I can lean comfortably with Dennis Allen, the defensive mind, and the defense of the New Orleans Saints. You do have to just monitor Winston, I think. Look, 4 back fractures. I think they said it's the L1 through the L4. It's not like the most crucial parts of your back, but you can clearly see it is affecting him on these throws. As you and I were talking about it off screen, it's slowing down his release time. A guy who has one of the fastest release times in all the NFL, and you can see it right now. You got to love Michael Thomas, obviously, and Alvin Kamara, but I'm absolutely going with Saints in this one.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm weirdly gonna go with the Panthers. Even seeing them last week, I don't know what's going on. I think that they have to win this game. That's my key for them. It says shocker pick on my end. I don't feel great about it, but they're at home. It's a short over-under. Jameis is a little injured here. With Alvin Kamara also being a little injured, I worry of the limit that the Saints have, and I think the Panthers being 0-2 to avoid the 0-3 slate, they're going to have to make something happen this week. They're going to, the New Orleans, that's... It's tough for me. This could be a one-possession game. These teams are very familiar. But, I'll make it a little fun. I'm going to go with the Panthers. All
right. I respect it. Moving it right along, we have the Houston Texans making their way to Chicago to face on the Bears. 38.5 over-under spread on this one. Bears are favored 2.5. I do just need to say right off the bat about that Sunday Night Football game, I thought that was a touchdown by Justin Fields. I thought that the ball broke the plane. Just want all Bears fans to know that as a Viking fan, I did think that was a touchdown.
Me too.
That being said, the passing was underwhelming with the 7 for 11 performance and 70 yards and an interception. Granted, that Packers defense clamped down. It was the Packers defense that many people expected them to be.
Yeah.
They were in it for the most part, the Bears. Granted, it didn't feel like they were quite always there. They did feel like they were kind of in the game the entire time.
Yeah.
For this one, what are your thoughts up against the Texans?
I mean, it's a low spread. We expect both of these, like you said. The offensive output of the Bears is not great. The Texans also not great. Like you were saying that the Texans 2-13 last week on third down. It's very unsuccessful for your guy Davis Mills. Not what you want to see. But I do think that both of these teams, it's kind of like when you have a little bit of a mess going on, you just got to clean it up. And this is a great opportunity for both of them to do that. It's in Chicago. Hopefully it's a little bit better weather than week 1. But I am also looking at the sense of, I liked that Houston kept themselves in the game last week against the Denver Broncos despite this terrible third down conversion rate.
Yeah, no, it was not a good conversion rate. They were 2 for 13. That's not how you're going to be able to win games. This is one of those games. I don't really know who's going to win. I think it's very, very 50-50. These are two teams I think are still trying to figure themselves out right now, and I think the Texans are a little bit more surprising. I think the Bears in the future, they have a great cap space coming up the next few years.
It's going to be $120 million this offseason.
Yeah, next this offseason, don't be surprised if the Bears are making huge splashes this offseason and getting ready for next year. Just want to put that out there now. I'm going to go with the Bears though.
A little more upside.
Yeah, I think Justin Fields gives a little bit more than Davis Mills. I'm a big Davis Mills fan. I want to see a little bit more Darnell Mooney getting involved in this one. I really want to see Montgomery get going. We saw it a few times last week against the Packers. When Montgomery was going, that offense was moving. He was moving really, really well.
Even when they were down, they just kept running Montgomery.
Yeah, and it was working. So keep doing it. Feed the man. He's great. He's great. I really like Fields. I think this is going to be a game that they win. They're going to get to 2-1 in this one.
Yeah, he's my X factor as well in this game. I think that, like you said, I would love to see Mooney get involved. Cole Kmet, no targets last week. I mean, this is getting kind of crazy now with them only passing 28 times in the last 2 weeks. I'd love to see Justin Fields pass for over 28 times this week and go and win the game and get Montgomery a lot of offense. That's the key here for Chicago is we feel like we haven't even seen Matt Eberflus offense, but I'm still going to pick them in this game.
It's coming. They can definitely do it. I think they also have the better defense. Robert Quinn was starting to get going up against Aaron Rodgers last week. Got that sack. I really, really enjoyed that. All right, let's move right along. We got another NFC showdown when the Detroit Lions make their way to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. It's an over-under of 51.5. Minnesota's favored by -7 right now. Full touchdown. The largest spread of the week. Now, the Lions coming off a huge win against the Commanders. They were absolutely dominant. Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift. Vikings embarrassed on the road. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know Sean definitely needs a moment to process from last night. We were talking about it. In our chat, we were talking together about it, and last night a lot of mistakes by Kirk Cousins. I mean, they ran the same play twice in the back of the end zone. You go to Darius Slay, who literally has the most, some of them, he is maybe top 5 most amount of picks since the end of the league. They showed a stat last night, most passes defended in the last 5 years. And, that is going to be a little bit easier this week against Detroit. They have Jeff Okudah, who's still a good cornerback, but not as high as Slay. This week, it's got to be the running game for the Vikings. The Detroit Lions have been utilizing their running backs very well. And last week, Dalvin Cook was underutilized against the Eagles. And now when you go into another opponent with a good run game, it's not like Green Bay week 1 where you just have to shut down their pass game. You need to stop DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams in this game. Now you got to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Vikings defense. So the Vikings overall, I want to see their defense improve in the run game, and I want to see the Vikings offense just turn the ball over a little less. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you're just preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, 4 total turnovers by Kirk Cousins, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. Just absolutely brutal to see. We just didn't get a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts. They were able to sort of run all over us. So first and foremost, defense get the pressures at Harris Smith, Daniel Hunter. I have full faith. 25 sacks between you both. Let's get it going. I also felt like with the running aspect of the game against Jalen Hurts, they just seemed to not have an answer for that. So Jared Goff, not known as a running quarterback the way Jalen Hurts is, so that should benefit the defense a little bit more, knowing that he's a pocket passer. Definitely got to run the ball. Dalvin Cook's a great running back. and the fact that he only ran the ball 6 times on Monday Night Football.
We were talking about it Sunday. If he doesn't get less than 20 touches, this game could be so different.
The offense gets totally different. And, they dropped back 46 times. I had mentioned in our Thursday Night Football video, when you're become a one-dimensional team and you have to pass the ball, you're getting in the hole with the score, people are dropping passes, and the ball starts to get turned over. You just don't get anything going. Yeah. And neither one of us scored in the second half, but it never felt like the Vikings were even close to really getting anything going. Even when they were in the red zone, it didn't feel like they were really there to make an impact. And
this Lions team has been, getting kind of screwed with these one possession games, but they won last week. But now I'm looking at this like the Vikings are going to be tougher than the way the Commanders played last week. So both teams are playing completely different things. I do think it's going to be high scoring. I think the 51.5 is gonna hit.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
We were talking about this off camera. Everybody kind of expected it, but Jared Goff is a statistical nightmare. And Amon-Ra St. Brown,
he's fantastic.
Sean was talking about him earlier. What do you got to say about him?
9 for 116-2. Man's a beast. I think it's 9 straight games with 8 receptions. Leads the league in the Super Bowl era. Longest streak by an active player. I'm going to go with the Vikings for a third straight week. I really love what we did our week 1 at home. I think the crowd will be there. I think we got to get back on track. I do think Kirk Cousins will throw the ball a little bit less, and I expect Justin Jefferson also to have a great game. He didn't play poorly last week. Just,
Yeah, I honestly kind of want to take Minnesota and them at 7. I would take them by a touchdown.
Love that, but I'm not,
because I think that I feel like these teams do not haven't been kicking as much. Weird enough, that's a weird factor for me. But I think this is going to be a pretty straight up game in the sense that they're just going to be one-on-one. It may, I've seen Vikings-Lions games where they are only kicking games, but I feel like this is going to be one of those high offensive games, and I feel like Minnesota, if they do get going, they'll win this by more than 7.
All right, I love it. Moving it right along, the Atlanta Falcons making their way to Seattle, take on the Seahawks, 42.5 over/under. Seattle's favored by 1.5. This is one of our 4:25 games, a little bit more later afternoon part. Not a lot going on for this one for me, quite honestly. I'm just going to go right out of the bat. I'm going with the Falcons. I'm a little bit more comfortable with that offense and what they did up against the Rams last week. That interception by Jalen Ramsey was he mossed him.
That was awesome. That was an awesome pick.
Absolutely.
If you haven't seen it, look it up.
Look it up right now. I'm just not confident with the Seattle Seahawks offense. I talked about it in week 1. They just sort of had all the momentum going for them, and you could just saw immediately in week 2. I said they were going to get their mouths kicked in, and they did against a really good opponent. I think the Falcons can just cause some problems with the Seahawks, and that will be enough to get the win.
And the 1.5 spread, it kills me because I do think that the Falcons' defense is gritty enough. We kind of saw them put themselves back into some good situations last week to kind of make a little comeback. I'm just going to say out the gate, I want Atlanta just like you. I'll take the I'll take the 1.5 spread, but I'm staying away from that over under the 42.5. This game is they're gonna take the top off of these defenses, or there's just gonna be like a 10-13 game.
It's gonna be gross.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So we're both going to Atlanta on that one. Ready for some good games?
Yes. Let's jump right into our good games with our Sunday Night Football matchup. And the San Francisco 49ers made their way to Denver, Colorado to take on the Broncos. 43.5 over under on this one. Denver is a 1-point favorite. Jack, what are your thoughts going into this one? Because Russell Wilson, very familiar with the 49ers.
Yeah, both of these teams had different weeks. Like Sean said last week, the Niners kind of kicked in the Seattle Seahawks, a little reality. And then on the other hand, you got Denver, who was kind of handed a weird reality check by Seattle that week before. And then Houston last week in a very low-scoring affair, which we did not expect. We kind of were hoping that game was going to be like, oh, they got a couple good receivers, couple quarterback, and it was very low-scoring, a lot of field goals. 43.5, 1-point spread in Denver's favor. Sunday Night Football, it's going to be a close game. I feel like, these teams have been pretty gritty this year. But I'm a little worried about the quarterbacks on both ends. I'm worried about how the offense will look with Jimmy G. I think it could look better, but I don't know what it's going to look like if it's going to look like it did last year or anything like that. But I'm also kind of worried about Russ.
Yeah, Trey Lance out for the season with the ankle injury. Wishing him a speedy recovery. That's not how you want to see this happen, for sure. It was looking great in that opening drive before the injury. That being said, I do think that with Jimmy G, your familiarity. You know you're going to get. We got tons of film on him. They were in the NFC Championship game under Jimmy G last year, then they've been to a Super Bowl with him. So Clearly, they can win with Jimmy G and make it far in the playoffs, even if they're going like 10-7 like they did last year. I am a little bit worried about Russ. I was all on board with it. I was super duper confident, but the first 2 weeks are just not what we've seen.
Underwhelming compared to that contract, I gotta say.
Yeah, very underwhelming and really surprising. He just doesn't. You can just see that they don't seem like they have the same connection right now. The wide receivers and him. They don't seem to be on the same page. And the second Jerry Jeudy went out last week, it just changed the dimension of that game. For the passing. That being said, Russell Wilson in his career against San Francisco, which is 20 games, he's a whopping 16-4. All right,
and we have underestimated these new quarterbacks going to their division opponents, like you talked about. Joe Flacco having all this familiarity with the Browns and being able to just win, even though he hasn't played them in a long time. It's kind of like you have a rapport with how you prepare for these teams. And are we is it underwhelming and then this is the week that Russ just comes out of nowhere? I have no idea.
Neither do I. I'm going to go with the Broncos solely for the fact of that one record, that he has a winning record against them. I think that Debo benefits a lot from the Jimmy G, and I think that you're going to see a little bit more of what we were seeing last year with that offense. But one of the things we didn't take into account with the Joe Flacco Browns game was that Joe Flacco is now 23-4 against the Browns in his career.
Pretty
and
solid.
I think that history does sometimes speak volumes. History can repeat itself. So this is going to be one of the times that history repeats itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to, dominate the scoreboard, throw for 5 touchdowns, do something like that. Might only be a 16-13 win or 16-10 win like it was last week, but he is going to get the win, and that's what's most important.
And we saw the Niners have a blowout last week, and we saw them have a weird game with Chicago in the rain on the first week. I think that, they arguably looked really good with Jimmy G last week, in relief of Trey. He was 13-21. This is an offense that we've seen over the last couple of years, despite all the injuries, despite having Kittle being injured, Debo, having Ayuk injured, all the running backs. You still have the offense under the mind of Jimmy G, Kyle Shanahan. I am going to go with the 49ers on the sense of coaching here, the sense that, I think that last week, it was Lovie Smith, who's a great coach. He kept himself in the game, but the Broncos keep keeping themselves out of games for me. So I'm a little worried about them this year right now. I think the Niners defense is very good and can disrupt Russ, especially with Jerry Jeudy out. And Debo with maybe no Patrick Surtain may be a factor for me. So I will go with San Francisco. The over-under, I'll probably go with the under, though. Both of these teams are very capable of, kind of dropping the scores down to win the game.
All right, love it. Moving it right along, we have the Baltimore Ravens making their way to New England to take on the Patriots. Over under 44 here. Baltimore is favored by 3. Right off the bat, Lamar Jackson, absolutely dominant last week despite the loss. It was a huge comeback by the Miami Dolphins in the fourth quarter. Okay, yeah. That was insane. That being said,
that was the best game of the week last week.
I'm riding with the Ravens this week. It was the best game. You are right. I'm riding with the Ravens right off the bat. I love what we've seen from them in the opening 2 weeks. Tyreek Hill just took the top off in that fourth quarter, in that second half, and it was hard to keep up with him. When he gets in that mood and it's peace signs up everywhere, it's hard to stop him when that gets going. Patriots don't have a true wide receiver one. You got Marlon Humphrey, you got Marcus Peters, you got a great defense. This Ravens team is still built for the playoffs in the long run. Lamar Jackson looking like an MVP already, looking like back to that season just a few years ago. 75-yard running touchdown, over 100 yards rushing. Now has 11 to his name, breaks the record by Mike Vick, who previously had 10 in his career. Absolutely insane. Shout out Mike Vick also. But I just really like what we saw last week. We saw everyone getting involved, a lot of touchdowns getting thrown around, 3 touchdowns for him. Rashad Bateman, over 100 yards, just really getting involved.
Huge 75-yarder.
Yeah, absolutely great, and I'd love to see that from him. Patriots in the first 4 weeks keep talking about it. They're always an enigma. You never know what they're going to be. They haven't put up a lot of points. Mac Jones still has the back spasm, still dealing with that stuff. They don't have that true wide receiver one. And their running back room really isn't solidified. We're seeing a lot of everyone kind of in the backfield right there. So I don't know how much trust I can put in the offense of the Patriots. Riding with the Ravens.
Yeah, for like you said, I'm also going to go with Baltimore on this, but it is a good game in the sense that, like you said, that's a perfect way of putting it. The Patriots are an enigma. They come out every week. They game plan. We have no idea if it's going to be a million runs, if it's going to be Mac Jones getting the passing. You don't know which receiver. Like it's Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith had no catches last week, and they still won. And I have no idea. I have no idea how these things happen with the Patriots, but they're in New England, very hard place to play. Lamar has played well there, so off the bat, not too much of a discussion for me as long as the Ravens secondary can kind of keep it together, because We have seen them give up a lot of yards to the Jets and the Dolphins in the first 2 weeks. So, I'm going to go with the Ravens. But, I mean, the Patriots, it's a scary one. This could be like an upset of the week.
Long season. Let's see what's going on. Moving it right along, we have the Cincinnati Bengals making their way to New York to take on the Jets. 43.5 point over under. Cincinnati's favored by 4.5. I just got to say, first 2 weeks, 13 sacks. Bengals spent over $70 million on the offensive line, and your man's isn't being protected. What's up? What's up with that? And the Jets, surprisingly, great pass rush this season.
Yeah.
Great pass rush.
Robert Saleh's doing his thing.
What
exactly what Sean wanted them to do years ago. And the Bengals, they're just spending money and not protecting their quarterback. Like you said, I don't know how in the world you have a Super Bowl hangover like this. And, we are looking at the Bengals in a totally different light now if you go 0-3. We've been talking about the statistical drop-off between going 0-2 and 0-3 because making the playoffs. You're talking about a team that is in danger of almost missing the playoffs 3 weeks into the season, and they just won. And if the Jets pull it off and they go 2-1, that would be a pretty cool story, despite the fact that the Jets division is also crazy right now.
It would be insane if the Jets start off 2-1. All of New York would lose it. Two friends of the show, Kurt Motika and Will Hathaway, would probably freak out. A shout out to them. Just got to say, last year, this game happened in week 9. The Jets walked away with a win at home, 34-31. And you know who the starting quarterback was for the Jets that week?
Mike White?
Mike White, who went 37 for 45, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. They walked away with a win last year. The Bengals aren't looking great. Joe Burrow played really well last season against them. 21 for 34, 259, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. You know who else threw the ball? Tyler Boyd. 1 for 46 yards. I don't know how I feel about this game. I really don't know what's going on with this Bengals team. Jamar Chase really struggled last week up against Trevon Diggs. Said he's a little sloppy at times. Then only had 2 receptions for 12 yards. Sauce Gardner's been playing really, really well so far in the opening few weeks. He's not getting a lot of love, I feel like, in terms of the media out there, and he should be. It's going to be a great matchup and one to be looking. I'm looking at this as a 43.5 point over-under. I definitely am going to go the under on this one because the Bengals have not been scoring.
Jets going to keep themselves into it?
Yeah, and the Bengals just have not been scoring. Good pass rushes against them have been getting after the quarterback, 13 sacks. The Jets have been having a great pass rush to start the season. I'm going with the Jets.
Oh,
I think for the first time ever.
Oh my God! I don't think I genuinely am trying to think. I don't know when the last time you went with the Jets.
I don't think I have.
I wanted to last week. I don't know, but this week, man, this is so tough.
Garrett Wilson, baby, 8 catches, 2 touchdowns, 102 receiving yards, including the game.
It really is a shame when you have to look at the defending AFC champions 3 weeks into the season, and you have to think, man, the Jets can totally do it.
The Jets can totally do it.
But the crazy thing is, my Jets friends, I'm sorry. I will pick the Bengals. I need, again, so many teams threatened with the 0-3 battle here. Zach Taylor has to be able to come correct with this one after going 0-2, especially one against a division opponent. And last week against the Cowboys in prime time. You need Jamar Chase to be able to overcome Sauce Gardner, but this is why you have Tyler Boyd, you have T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst. You need to be able to get these guys all set up. So the one thing that I really want to see is the offense getting moving, but Joe Flacco cannot be passing for 300 yards on this Bengals defense. I think the Bengals defense will step up a little better in that regard, so I will go with them. I'm sorry, Jets fans, but I don't like that Cincinnati 4.5. I'm going to say that I think the Jets will cover that or maybe sneak a win like last week, I'm just going to say.
Oh, we got that in there last minute. Everyone heard that. All right, moving it right along. We have the Philadelphia Eagles making their way to Washington to take on the Commanders. 50.5 over under. Philadelphia's favored by 4. I'm Philly off the bat. Jalen Hurts was so good against the Vikings. Absolutely dominant in the run game. Dominant in the pass game was 26 for 31, 333 and a touchdown. 1 interception happened late in the game. Also had 11 rushes for 57 yards for 2 touchdowns. Had a great 26-yard touchdown against them. He just could not be stopped. Kept running through our entire defense.
He's good.
Washington, he's really good. Look, the Commanders have played okay under Wentz. They had a really late comeback.
Second most passing yards through the first 2 weeks. Can't complain about him.
No,
I get you.
3 touchdowns and interception, but he did drop back 46 times. They were in a hole early on in the game. They had to drop back. I think the Eagles are looking at this game. You have the Giants 2-0. They're 2-0. Commanders are 1-1. Dallas is 1-1. They lose this game, and the Giants lose this game. All of a sudden, everyone's tied. You know it's a must-win game for themselves. They got to jump out to that early 3-0 start. Give another loss to a division opponent. Have them start in that hole right now, and kind of set yourself up to potentially win this division. There's a lot riding on this game, I think, really early on. It's a division win. You can get an early lead in the division. Giants are looking really good. They're playing Monday night against Dallas. A lot that's important.
This is a big NFC week.
Or in this week 3 game for the NFC East.
Yeah, and I think that what's interesting to me is both of these teams have great, just offenses. They have a lot of offensive pieces, but not a lot of great when it comes down to the Eagles, you have AJ Brown, you have Devonta Smith, and then you have
Dallas
Curtis Samuel, you have Terry McLaurin on the other side. But you're right.
Dotson.
And then you got Logan Thomas on one side, Dallas Goedert on the other. You got Gibson on one side, Sanders on the other. There's a lot of offensive firepower, but a lot of these teams, these teams are made up of their defenses, and I think that Wentz has had a couple of easy defenses the last 2 weeks. That's why he has led to that really high offense. But like Sean said, it's still not like they're putting the greatest performances out there. I'll go with Philly as well. I think that Hurts goes hard here. I think Philly covers that 4-point spread. And I do think it covers. I think it's an over on the 50 because I do think the team's familiarity, they're going to be going pretty crazy right now.
Absolutely agreed. Also, Eagles defense 4 turnovers last week against the Vikings. All right, moving it right along. Jacksonville Jaguars making their way to LA to face the Chargers. 47.5 over under on this one. LA have a -7 favor to them. Again, the largest spread tied with the Vikings and the Lions game. This is a 405 matchup. The Jaguars have 100% of the AFC South wins right now and currently lead the division after just shutting out their division rivals, the Indianapolis Colts. Things I did not expect myself to ever say at this point in the season. Thoughts?
And it's only week 3.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but the Jacksonville Jaguars having a shutout in week 2 is pretty nuts.
What's happening?
And, the Chargers, like we talked about a little earlier in the show, coming off just a very upsetting loss. We knew it was going to be a shootout. We knew it was coming down to the wire on Thursday night. But now they've had 10 days to prepare for this game. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, a couple of, gunslingers. I'm excited for, the running backs in this game most of all. I'm excited for James Robinson, Austin Eckler. But, then there's also, we talked about a guy, Christian Kirk, last week who dominated. And randomly, another Jaguars game. Now we got Mike Williams on the other side.
Playing great.
How are you feeling about Mike Williams after last week? I know Keenan Allen, he's questionable to play, but it may lean on him again, Mike Williams.
I think if Keenan Allen's out, you can still lean on Mike Williams. The main problem is Justin Herbert going to be in after the cartilage rib injury that he just sustained in the Thursday Night Football game? Is it going to be the Chase Daniel show instead? Reports are looking in the favor that Herbert will most likely play, but you never know because fact of the matter was, we saw, granted, he threw a laser right after this, but the play right before, don't forget, if you saw, he was fully dead arm. That left side went down. He struggled to throw the ball on that one right there. And, this is when you begin to ask yourself as a team,
it's early in the season.
It's early in the season. You have the long-term season. Also, this is your franchise guy. You know what I mean? This is going to be your guy of the future for the next 10 years, supposedly. He's only in year 3. So do you want to risk it because, that could lead to punctured lungs, further injuries like that. And do you want to risk it? And that's the major question that I'm seeing in this. But for me, I'm looking at the Chargers team. I picked them last week against the Chiefs. They were so close to making it happen. So close. I'm going to go with them again. I think J.C. Jackson's going to have a really good game against Christian Kirk and kind of slow him down. Christian Kirk, 6 for 78, 2 touchdowns last week, was 6 for 117 the week before. I think they're going to hold him to under 75 yards in this game and to no touchdowns.
Well, yeah, it's I got to go with LA at home out of the gate. It's just I think Jacksonville last week, I don't want to say flash in a pan, but like Sean said, it's very rare that we're out here talking big about Jacksonville. Made some big improvements this offseason, but we are big on the Chargers and that 7-point spread. If Justin Herbert does not play though, I have to say,
then
this
I go
could
towards
be,
the Jaguars.
This
quite
could
honestly.
be a dangerous thing that a lot of people need to watch out for. Like Sean said, it's like with this injury, this could affect the whole game.
That's fantasy implications. That's game implications.
Everything. Yes, the volume of Mike Williams and Austin Eckler is definitely going to be lower in fantasy without Justin Herbert there. Gerald Everett, same thing. So keep an eye out for that stuff. And if he's not in, hammer that under. If he isn't, just keep that eye on that spread. That's going to be a way shorter spread, maybe even in Jacksonville's favor if he's not playing, in the sense that they won last week. And Jacksonville, weird enough, could take a thing on the NFC South, but I'm going with Chargers out the gate.
Absolutely, I love it. All right, moving it right along. Our last good game of the session. LA Rams making their way to Arizona, take on the Cardinals, 50.5 over under. Rams are favored by -4, 425 game. What are your thoughts going into this one? Arizona Cardinals got the huge OT win, huge comeback win last week.
Yeah, man. Kyler Murray, you're running around for 20 seconds on a scramble for the 2-point. You do the same thing on the next one. You get a huge rushing touchdown. I mean, it was all let me get it. And then the defense, you stopping Hunter Renfrow last week. The Cardinals, you stepped up in the second half. I got to give you a big shout out. But the Rams actually kind of almost let the Falcons run away with the game in the second half. A lot of mistakes. So a lot, kind of a tale of two cities, we call it. But the NFC West, man, we've been talking about these teams as much as we can this year because it is such a competitive division.
It really is.
But right now, with Trey Lance out, we got to see how it's going to look with the Niners. The Seattle Seahawks not looking great.
Everybody's 1-1.
So this is a huge game for these two teams.
Absolutely. Who do you think you're going to go with in this one?
I'm going to go with the Rams on the road, but I don't like it because of Kyler's, you watch his literally the last 2 minutes of that game made me last week say, I don't even care who he's throwing to. He did that. Now I'm like, oh, geez. But LA, they stopped it. Like you mentioned earlier in the show, Jalen Ramsey is still the guy. He's going to go up against Marquise Brown this week. I see that as such an advantage. And the Cardinals' offensive line has not been super great protecting the last couple of weeks. And Aaron Donald is still on the team. So, the one thing for me, I'm also looking at too, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson finally able to get involved last week.
Got a touchdown.
The Cardinals started a little slow. The Rams started a little fast last week. I think that's going to play a lot of factors into the Rams being able to win this game.
Yeah, the Cardinals have played 6 quarters of really slow football, it feels like.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna
all season.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go with the Cardinals in this one. I really like what we saw with how that game ended and just the momentum that's gonna give the Cardinals. I do think that the Rams can absolutely win this game, but I gotta go opposite of you, and I loved what we saw out of Kyler Murray. That 20-second 2-point conversion was a thing of beauty. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. And then the following 2-point conversion to AJ Green in the back of the end zone.
Beautiful.
There were just some plays that he made and some throws that he made and some things that Kyler Murray did that really was impressive, and I hope that they can maintain that momentum offensively. So
and you said, you just hope to carry that into a division game now.
Keep building on it.
Doing that on the road, you get to play this one at home. Hopefully James Conner, who went out last week with an injury, is good. But, they were able to get a lot of running backs involved. I do like the Cardinals' backfield a lot more than I like LA's backfield. I must say that. Benjamin getting involved a lot last week. So I do want to see, the Rams do what they did last week on offense. But the Cardinals, these are the two teams in the NFC West that will be making the playoffs. I know for sure. If San Francisco sneaks in there, I get it. But if Arizona blows it, I get it. LA is probably going to make it with the Super Bowl champions. But Arizona, man, we keep doubting them. Every time we doubt them, they do great.
They make magic happen. All right, moving in to our 2 games of the week. First one, Buffalo Bills making their way to Miami to face the Dolphins. 51.5 point spread on this one for the over-under. I'm going to go with the over on this one right off the bat. Buffalo's favored by 4.5.
Hammer the over.
Yeah, I'm going to hammer the over on this one. I'm going to go with Buffalo off the bat.
Love that.
Really, I love what the Bills are doing. They've been absolutely dominant the opening 2 weeks. This is a huge divisional game. Josh Allen plays pretty well in Miami. Miami's shown a lot, and they've proven a lot. Tyreek Hill looked great. Jalen Waddle looked great. Both over 170 yards. I think they both had 2 touchdowns. Tua Tagovailoa threw 6 touchdowns total. It was absolutely insane. Mike Gesicki, got to work on the gritty. Hit up Justin Jefferson. Man's can help you out for sure. A little bit too long. That being said, I think this is going to be a really high-scoring game, and I think it's going to be a huge first challenge for the Buffalo Bills, honestly, defensively. I think this is going to be the first time they're really going to see some pushback. Tyreek Hill has played against the Buffalo Bills twice now, has absolutely burned them a few times. They're going to need to watch out. Don't forget Jalen Waddle also, really, really fast, scoring touchdowns as well.
Yeah, and this game is now, as of last night, after Stephon Diggs decided to have a hat trick, just going off, doing whatever he wanted to do. We are looking at the top 3 in receiving yards right now in the league. Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, all going to be featured in this game. And I think they're going to continue that trend. This is something that I've been obviously proven wrong on with Tua. I'm just going to be out here saying it. It's been too long. I've been holding it in, but he's proven me wrong in the sense that I thought that he wasn't going to be able to maintain these 2 receivers and their production.
He is legit.
And you know who's leading the league right now, Mr. Sean Gannon? In the league, Mr. Tua Tagovailoa and Josh Allen coming in at 4th with the, so expect heavy passing. Both of these teams, their backfields are pretty uncertain. James Cook got a little love last week. Raheem Mostert got a little love last week on Miami, but at the end of the day, we know it's going to be a shootout. You're going to go hard, and I'm looking at this Buffalo 4.5. I can't, man. I don't know. I'm loving Buffalo. I'm not going to pick against them. I'm picking Buffalo. Don't get me wrong.
You're wearing the jersey.
I'm wearing the jersey.
Or the sweater.
But, man, did Miami impress me last week beyond any of my expectations. And, Baltimore, man, I mean, that's a tough place to go. We've been there watching games. That's a tough place to play.
It's fun.
So, the way Tua stepped up last week, I'm hoping he at least shows up that like this. But, man, Buffalo, like you said, this is going to be a challenge.
This is going to be a great game. Definitely want to tune into at 1 o'clock. Moving on to our second and last game of the weekend at 4:25. Green Bay Packers make their way to Tampa Bay, take the Buccaneers, 46 over
Rodgers,
under here.
Brady in the afternoon.
Freaking love it, man. No Mike Evans potentially in this game after being suspended for 1 game with a fight with Marshawn Lattimore in last week's game. What are your thoughts coming into this one?
Well, Mike Evans fantasy owners, I feel you. As a Mike Evans fantasy owner, you're just hoping that he doesn't get suspended for this game because that would be a huge, huge factor, especially the fact that we have seen evidently that the passing game for the Bucs has been tough. Now they're running it through a couple of different guys than we had expected for them to start this year. We were expecting the Godwin Evans at the beginning of this year, and now they're going with Scotty Miller, Russell Gage, Rashad Perriman, who are all going to actually have to step up the next couple of games, especially, not only with Godwin being out and Mike Evans being out, but they're going to need to establish this if they really want to become a deep passing team. The Packers also, weird enough, this may be the most uncertain we have ever gone into a game with Brady and Rodgers.
Most
and
definitely.
Thought that their receivers could be underwhelming. But you know what I've been thinking about? This could be a huge Leonard Fournette versus Aaron Jones game, and I don't think enough people are talking about that.
No, it absolutely could. And Aaron Jones got going last week.
That's a primetime Aaron Jones game right there.
Absolutely. 15 carries, 132 yards on the ground for a touchdown, and 3 receptions for 38 yards and touchdown. The surprising thing about the Packers game, leading wide receiver last week, Sammy Watkins, name you probably haven't heard in quite some time, 3 for 93. Maybe should be featured a little bit more going forward. Who knows? What are your thoughts of the defenses, though, on this one? Do you like the Packers defense more, or do you like the Buccaneers defense more?
I like the Bucs defense more. We've seen them, be successful, but the Packers defense is going to have to step up against Tom Brady if they want to keep him in this game. We've seen, what happens when Tom Brady has to make these wide receiver adjustments fast. It's not like everybody else where they have to struggle. He finds the exact way to utilize these guys. They're at home too. So I'm looking at this Bucs defense to step up at home. They're going to need to be able to pressure Aaron Rodgers. That's the only way you beat him, and it's really, really hard to do. It's hard to make him turn the ball over unless you're the Vikings a couple weeks ago. Shout out to my boy here. But the thing is, Tom Brady, right now, him and Rodgers, both around, 65, 70% right now with their completions. Both of them around, around 400 yards and 2 touchdowns each, 1 pick each. I think that they each have way more. I think they could each have 3 touchdowns in this game. I'm gonna throw it out there.
This is one of those really weird games. The last time they played, it was in the playoffs. Buccaneers got the huge win against them on the road. I'm a little bit more comfortable with the Buccaneers defense. Just the turnovers last week. They're going to be at home. Mm-hmm. Chris Godwin has a chance to maybe play in this game. They did just sign Cole Beasley. I really like what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can do. I I need the Packers to lose, that way the Vikings can have an attempt to win this division. So it's also a little bit of bias here.
And last week I bet against the GOAT. You went with the GOAT. You got your pay. Here we are.
Go win.
Man, Rodgers on the road is tough for me. The thing is for me, I think Leonard Fournette, he had a little quote this week that he hasn't had a touchdown. He's trying to get some production, and when he gets going, the game plan starts rushing. I think that the only way that they can beat Aaron Rodgers is really keeping him off the field. Brady's going to try to take that pressure off himself with all these receivers. It's time for them to get the running backs involved. A high running game by Tampa is what I'm expecting. But the 46-point over-under, Tampa, I think it's, it's tough. The defenses are really good. I don't like that over-under, even though I said that they could throw 3 touchdowns each. That's a ceiling, but the reality is the defenses are very tough. These are veteran quarterbacks who are going to try to keep long possessions. So I would maybe going with the under on this one. I'll go with Tampa as well.
All right, love to hear that. That is all the time that we have. Thank you for listening, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, another Sunday coming at you. Just Saying Football. And just check out our Monday night game coming out. Giants versus the Cowboys in the Meadowlands. We got a video coming out for you there Monday. We got Just Saying Football on YouTube for you to check out. Like, subscribe, add some comments, see anything you want. And check us out, Just Saying, no GWJS, on Instagram for all your video article updates. And have a great Sunday of football.
Enjoy.